I wrote this especially for tonight because my piece in the zine is, it's a little harsh. It's not the most positive thing. So this is hopefully kind of the more positive version of that. Okay. And it's called You Get to See Them Every Day, a love story. Like so many stories, this one begins with a mixtape. The mixtape that introduced me to Riot Grrrl and queer-phobic. I got it during my first year of high school. I still have it. It's been sitting in my stereo tape deck for the better part of the last 13 years. What's on the tape? Well, Bratmobile, Third Sex, Team Dresch, Heavens to Betsy, The Frumpies, Slater Kinney, Bikini Kill, yeah, the essentials. The bands and songs that changed my life. I spent all my afternoons in high school reading zines and listening to those bands' albums. Most of this happened in the solitude of my bedroom. I did all of that alone because I didn't know anyone else who was interested. But I never felt alone back then. I fell in love with Riot Grrrl because it made sense to me like nothing ever had before. The singers didn't sound that different from me. They sounded like real girls. And they were singing about stuff that I knew about from a point of view that I could relate to. I fell in love with those girls, with people like Kaya Wilson and Kathleen Hanna, because they seemed really brave to be singing what they were singing. They were my heroes, and it was hard to feel alone because I felt like I had them. But then I came home from college, and I started to feel really alone. I was lucky enough to go to a very left-leaning college that had a lot of stuff that was really useful to me there. There was a really active political scene. There was a really active and really strong women's studies program. There were feminist and queer advocacy groups. I graduated from college and I came home and I didn't have any of that. I came home and I realized that in the real world, I was a mutant. Very well educated, conscientious, feminist activist who knew a lot about feminist theory. I didn't feel like I really fit in anywhere in society off campus. So I didn't know how to find anyone like me, and I went back to listening to records by myself in my bedroom. And then, in a weird way, Riot Grrrl kind of came through for me again. I heard about the first girls' rock camp, the one in Portland, Oregon, because Slater Kinney had volunteered there. And I found out that Latigra had gotten involved with Willie Mae Rock Camp right here in Brooklyn. I applied to volunteer, not realizing that I was about to find exactly the community that I had been looking for. The staff and the volunteers at Rock Camp are the artists, musicians, advocates, and activists that I've wanted to know my whole life. Going from being and feeling alone, though, to suddenly being surrounded by so many people who had similar ideas was overwhelming. Not only that, I suddenly found myself meeting the musicians I had fallen in love with a decade earlier. I got to volunteer with Allison Wolf from Bratmobile. I got to hold her hand during a trust exercise at orientation. And then when she couldn't find the subway, I had to direct her to the stop because she didn't know where it was. I met Kathleen Hanna very briefly, only to run into her and meet her a second time a few years later and have kind of a longer talk with her about the benefits of drinking seltzer. A different story, every day.
I was there.
And I got to kind of corner Kaya Wilson and tell her that I listened to the album Personal Best every day of my junior year of high school. Now, after I blurted this out to her, there was like this awkward pause. That was like just long enough for me to think, crap, I said too much. She freaked out. But I don't think she was, because then she said, really? Wow, that's really amazing. No one's ever said anything like that to me before. Thank you. So she was incredibly gracious about the whole thing. But anyway, I will admit that I like telling those stories about meeting those people, not because I think they make me look cool, because I think they actually show what a dork I am. But I like telling them because I feel like they illustrate what community and kind of punk feminisms are really about. Volunteering your time and energy, working with other people, and resisting hierarchy. I got to volunteer with my heroes because they're so committed to the feminist ideas and issues that they were singing about 20 years ago. And because they helped to make a space where we can work on those issues where we can support young women and where we can resist discrimination and oppression together. I got to embarrass myself in front of Kyle Wilson because whatever your feelings might be on Riot Girl, it was something real, and it helped form communities and institutions that are doing stuff right now. Good stuff. They're still helping us, and we're still learning from them, and we're still making stuff happen because of the Riot Girl. I got to meet Kyle Wilson, and I got to hold Alice Moll's hand, and maybe more importantly, I got to meet a lot of other incredibly talented, intensely dedicated young women and musicians. And those people are inspiring me right now, like all my records and zines used to. I could name them, but there's really too many of them to mention them all, and also a lot of them are like in this room right now, and I don't really want to embarrass anybody. But I guess that's kind of the point of community, and of building, you know, a girl gang underground. The people that you admire and that you look up to, they're in the room with you. They're there. Your heroes are all around you. They're your friends. They're your colleagues. They're your collaborators. You get to meet them, see them, work with them every day.
Yeah.